Everyone ready for this profound interview? I started taking classes at the Walnut Street Theater School in Philadelphia, off campus.
Oh, so you didn't like tell your friend?
I told no one.
Wow.
No one. It was a secret.
Huh.
Because it felt like a special thing that special people did. These are my people. Isn't life wonderful? Well, hello.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Could you please tell me your name?
My name is Greg Kwedar.
Greg Kwedar.
And
I love that you actually just said Kwedar because people can never get it right.
You can't pronounce my name.
But why? It's so simple.
I know.
Kwedar.
Yeah, but I've heard it all.
I've heard cheddar,
yeah,
Kwedar.
Kwedar.
Yeah, quintuplets.
There were some bad nicknames when I was a kid as well.
Really?
We won't go into that.
It's good to see you.
So in a setting like this, there's a crew around, there's lights, and I think that's the mystery of our work. We set these cameras up. There's an entire crew around, but then you have to step in front of it and bring us something honest. You're the rare actor where you're always playing, you're always trying something. And even many times you would have to call cut yourself because I was just so enraptured with
But I love that.
happening.
That's what I love about working with you. And
Yeah.
I want to talk about your the impetus for you directing and why do you want to direct?
I'm someone who senses potential in people and wants to bring it forth, you know, and wants to help encourage someone to whatever that big
It's
hairy
almost
dream
like a
is.
doula or midwife.
Maybe, I don't know. Like I love just being there for that little push or that little, or like the why not? Like why not swing for this or go for it? You have that in you.
But there's something about, I would say this, working with you, honestly, it's like you have an incredible trust in the process. And I say that because a lot of people don't. They want you to hit it, get it the way they have it in their head on the first one. And I literally had this conversation with the director the other day because I think that she wanted what was inside her head. And I said, but I'm living in this body and in this space, and it's supposed to transform out of even what was written and the way you have laid it out architecturally. It's the strange alchemy of all these thoughts and things and rhythms and like camera operating for it to happen. Even as a writer, I don't want just what's in my head. I'm like, how do you see this?
One of the reasons why we connected so deeply, so quickly, is I'm just someone as a person and an artist that I don't really subscribe to what I would say like the auteur theory of filmmaking, that it's one filmmaker at the top who authored every brushstroke of a movie by themselves. Like that's not what filmmaking is to me. Filmmaking is the greatest artistic collaboration on earth that takes every medium of artwork and brings it under one sort of vision and story. And I think within that, if a film only meets your vision or my vision, I sort of view that as a failure. And it's sort of through the collaboration of all these artists that help expand your vision beyond whatever you thought was possible that I view success as.
Okay, Greg. Okay, where does this come from? Okay, because I know your mother, who's an incredible photographer.
Yeah.
I'm asking you this. This is outside of creating art, but where does this come from? Because it's a very curious thing. Like even when I first met you and you approached me about this project, and there was no script whatsoever.
It's 6 years into the process.
6 years in the process. For some reason, something said I should work with this guy because I believe that he's true to what he's trying to do, which is have a very generous spirit in the way you collaborate. Where's that come from? Mom, grandma?
You really were a journalism major, weren't you?
Exactly. It comes out in moments like this. It's a special skill. Where's it come from?
Well, both my parents had jobs, but their passion was they were coaches, you know, in different ways. Like my dad was a rugby coach, and so it was like about, you know, being a part of a big team and the chess of it all and the strategy and all that. My mom was a golf coach, and so her sort of point of view was more in like sort of the Zen things of like, you're not playing an opponent, you're not playing the course, you're sort of playing yourself, and like that's where the great war is. And so I lived amongst many sports metaphors.
Now it's now making more sense. I've never asked you that because you do like the idea of a team, and everyone has a job to do to make this team move forward and achieve those goals. I get it.
The future of being a storyteller, I think the seeds were there all through my sort of young childhood, but you weren't aware of it, you know, like I was someone who would take a stuffed animal. I wanted to be a doctor when I was a kid, so I would take my stuffed animals and I would cut them open and put things inside them and sew them up with my mom's sewing kit.
Okay, that's a little dark though.
It's not dark.
It's not dark, but wait.
But, you know, like, I mean, say it out loud.
That's beautiful. It's saying it out loud seems like Ryan Murphy should make a film about you. But, okay, we'll go back to that. Maybe that's your next story. But so you would cut them open, you put things inside them.
Yeah, like little Playmobil toys and stuff.
Okay.
And Legos and whatever.
Okay. So you would do this wild experiment.
But, you know, like you think, but it was like, you know, it seemed like I was like, oh, I'm on the path to being a surgeon or something, but it was actually more, or a psychopath. But
the same thing, our industry, you know.
I guess so. But in hindsight, I was like more interested in the story of that and the creativity of it than the profession itself.
Gotcha.
You know.
Right.
And really, like, I had a teacher my junior year of high school, my AP English teacher, Mrs. Smith, who read an essay of mine and just said, you have a voice, like, keep writing. And it was something I pushed aside for many years. I went on to college and I was an accounting major and all sorts of other things.
What was her name again?
Mrs. Smith.
Mrs. Smith. Isn't it something, because I feel like we owe a lot to the Mrs. Smiths in the world, like it's that one person.
Yeah.
And she's planted that seed. I had my first acting teacher.
Yeah.
He told me I had a gift, and no one ever told me. I think, not knocking, my parents were such loving, caring parents, but no one told me I had a gift in anything. But that one person says, you have a gift, and you're like, oh.
Did you know, did it resonate right then? And then did that sort of alter the course of your life? Or did it take a while to actually take root in your mind and believe it?
I was a journalism student at Temple University. And I was I grew up very shy, very bookish, and on the, school newspaper, I was just a bona fide nerd. This is all fabricated. Yeah. It's cool, man of Hollywood now. It's just
someone dressed me. You pulled that out of your closet.
I created this. but I went to college and I was like, I just wanted to write. I wanted to go to war-torn places and write about it. I wanted to be that kind of journalist.
Why?
I was a photojournalism major. I was just concerned about the world and like wanting people to know what was going on. I think my mother early on always inspired her kids to take part and don't just sit back, do something about it. She would always just say, don't complain about it, do something about it. She always instilled in us some service, whether it's in our neighborhood, community, something. I became a volunteer after school program teacher when I was, working to become an actor in San Francisco, all because of her, because she said, you have to do something and be in service. So service is deeply embedded in my spirit. So when I was at Temple University, I took an acting class just as an elective because I was so shy. And my mother said, do something, don't just take matriculating classes, take something that's just fun. And I remember when I was like about 12 and did the summer program and I was able to take acting classes. I'm gonna tell you, I had so much fun and I thought about that and I said, I wanna do that again. So I took one acting class and my teacher pulled me aside towards the end of the semester. He says, Colman, have you thought about acting as a profession? And I thought, no, I don't even know what that is. Well, I don't know how I didn't grow up going to the theater. Yeah. People in television, they all lived in Hollywood. Right. I didn't know how I would do that. So I said, no. He said, he actually said this, I'd be very curious if you pursued this path because I believe you have a gift. And that, I think it changed my whole DNA in that moment. Yeah. Because I walked around like someone believes that I have something to give. And then I started taking classes at the Walnut Street Theater School in Philadelphia, off campus, because it was very secretive about it. I was like, I want to explore this. And so I would go to these classes at night after.
Oh, so you didn't tell your friends?
I told no one.
Wow.
No one. It was a secret. Huh. It was like, because you
it was sort of just for you.
Yeah, because also
it's also precious at that time. And if someone were
you don't want somebody to say, oh, well, it's really hard. What makes you so special? Because it felt like a special thing, the special people did it. And you were like, oh, I want to lay on the floor and fill my body with orange juice and breathing exercises. I loved all of that weird stuff. Rolling around like we're in an insane asylum. I was like, these are my people. And so I thought my people
You're
were
cutting stuffed animals.
Yeah, you and I come from the same place, basically. I was rolling around on the floor, and you were cutting open stuffed animals. So here we are. Isn't life wonderful?
Is there like an early exercise that you cherish that you remember from those times?
Oddly enough, it's something like the exercise, favorite place exercise in our film. It was just about using your imagination. I know for sure that the exercises that I was doing, laying on the floor, believing my body is filled, I'm filling a balloon up in my body, and I'm rising to another place where I'm taking myself to some place that I can only imagine, like Marrakesh, that I'd never been to. But you start to, they would say, oh, smell, cardamom and things like that. So suddenly my brain would start to take over. I honestly believe that where I am now, even in my career, was because people planted seeds in my imagination for me to live in my imagination, which is why I think at the heart of our film, I think that's what our film is about. Like, if you have an imagination, you can do anything. You can take yourself to different places. You can be something else. You can explore everything inside of you because you have that faculty. You know what I mean? So I think that was planned early.
And your environment, no other person can steal that from you.
No. I grew up in inner city, West Philadelphia, and it's like you could go one way or the other. Like you're a very working class neighborhood. You have people who can go one way, or you can go the education route, or you can go the street route. So you had a choice. But I know that my mother in particular, she really encouraged our imagination and really encouraged us to do something and draw and paint and dance and things like that, Was that part of your growing up?
It took a while. That message from my teacher, Mrs. Smith, it was something I honestly sort of shrugged off for about 5 or 6 years. I was sort of chasing more those prescribed paths that you get kind of ushered into when you enter college. And, I got into accounting just because it was the prestigious program in the school, and it was like a guaranteed job, when you got out. And but I was never stopping asking what does this mean to me? What is it unlocking in me? How is it helping me process? And, is this my vocabulary to question what it means to be alive? Which for some people actually audit and tax work, is it?
My business manager is he's the best in the planet.
It's an art form.
Yeah,
it wasn't my art form, and actually I was on the precipice of accepting a job in accounting.
Really?
Yeah, I was in New York. I put on an ill-fitting suit to go to an interview in the financial district, and
self-sabotage.
The lobby. No, I didn't actually. I didn't blow it all up. Yeah, I did a little bit later, but I was on the 50th floor of this office building, and I was standing in the lobby, and I was just looking down out the window, and I was looking down onto the ruins of the World Trade Center, and the memorial hadn't been built yet. It was just this kind of gaping hole. And after my interview, I actually got the job. After my interview, I walked uptown from the financial district, and I was in Washington Square Park, and I was around all this life of these artists, and some people selling weed, and other people just reading a book, and other people dancing and all that. And I was like, I love this city, but I don't want to be in a city wearing this suit. And so I think that was this moment that was starting that break from it. But then that summer, I was in Sydney, Australia, was playing sports over there. And I was in a cafe, and I was by myself really for the first time, that far away from home. And I pulled out a notebook kind of instinctually, and I just started writing. And that voice of my teacher, Mrs. Smith, just started playing in my head, and I just started to write. And then I looked up this film school in Sydney and asked for a tour, and I got a tour of the facility. In the basement, these 2 women were casting their short film, and they just handed me the sides, hey, can you read for the actors coming in? I was like, I'm just on a tour, but,
Are you serious?
Yeah, sure. So I read for a couple hours, and then after we finished, they're like, hey, we're shooting in 2 weeks. We need a PA. Will you come? I was like, I don't know what that is, but yes, I'll be there. And
you just like being a part of it.
And I came on that set, and once I stepped onto that set, and I felt that energy of all of these artists together, working towards that story, I was like, this is me. This is for me.
Wow.
And I came back to my senior year of accounting, and I dropped out in the middle of a test.
Wow. In the middle of the test?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, a follow-up. Are you good with numbers? Are you good with keeping your own accounting and books?
Well, I think we'll get to it, but like it helped shape like my entrance into this business. I had this awareness of, I was seeing a lack of transparency and a lot of waste.
Yes.
You know, not much showing up on a screen. And like those two things started to shape actually questioning and looking at the process, how these things are built. That then led to Clint and I years later developing the financial model.
Okay, this is phenomenal. I love the fact that I'm just finding this out. Thank you, RaMell, for actually find out more about my friend. Because that's phenomenal. That makes a whole lot of sense then. So it just didn't come about arbitrarily. You were like, oh no, this is something I've been thinking about as a practitioner while I'm creating work. How can we create it in a more equitable way? How can we almost like rethink the way we're making work?
Yeah.
And in making our film Sing Sing, you've asked me questions like, how did this film change you? What it's given you? You've been out there now hearing how people have been receiving it.
Yeah.
What are the things that have surprised you or moved you about the commentary about the film and what we've made and how we've made it?
I was just thinking about this actually, and feel like we're probably approaching almost like our 100th Q&A, you know, since we debuted at TIFF last year. And audience after audience that we're sort of in the house for. There's this beautiful thing that happens where you when you have that much of like, say, a sample size of experiences, at a certain point you realize like everyone laughs right here. The theater goes very quiet right here. You hear maybe tear, you know, little sniffles here, like outright sobbing or, you know, whatever it is, like, but it's at these like moments that are consistent no matter where we are.
Now, give him some love, give him some love. All right, that's it. All right, now, what's your emotional state? What's underneath that?
Mad as a motherfucker.
Okay, no, okay. Anger is the easiest thing to play. Am I right, Brent?
Too easy.
What's more complicated is to play hurt. That helps you name the thing, all right?
The times that we've actually screened this film to incarcerated men, when we premiered the film inside Sing Sing, when we were part of the first ever film festival inside of a prison at San Quentin, which I was at both of those, and they were both very unique. Like one, inside Sing Sing, even though it's, you know, has this program, RTA, of which our movie is based on, we were playing it in the same theater that our movie was set, you know, in front of current members of the program. You were going through the thing that our movie's about, you know, but yet it was also very segregated. Incarcerated people were on this side of the house and civilians were on this side of the house, and there were CEOs walking all through, and it was super hot, and there were fans going, and there was a female CEO on a platform just like watching like the whole, you know, screening. So you felt like this sort of security state over it all. But despite all that, like the movie still sung.
Yeah.
And then inside San Quentin, though, it was an integrated audience. And we were all sitting in the dark, incarcerated people, civilians alike, shoulder to shoulder, together, sharing that film. And it felt just like any theater I'd been in across the world. And like that was like a beautiful picture of maybe what our future could look like.
I hope so. I really do. I love the responses that I get from people who they focus on the idea of play.
Yeah.
Of these black and brown men, some white men too, rolling on the floor and playing with imaginary swords, things like that. And they say they're so moved by moments like that. And I've been really trying to like, because I think they don't have a lot of answers of why they were so moved over those moments. Whether I think young women are looking at like wishing their dad had a sense of play or could go back to that very innocent time. I think how rare it is to see men and masculine men playing with one another and being vulnerable with one another. It's rare. And maybe it's because it's you and it's Clint and it's Clarence and Sean Dino, and it's all of our spirits with this sort of act of gentle revolution. It was never anything pressing, like say, we don't want to do this or we want to do this. But we knew with all that love and light energy, we wanted tenderness and vulnerability, because I think that's what we witnessed as we realized that that's what these men were doing. Whether or not they've ever said it, that's exactly what they're holding, space for tenderness and joy.
But I have to also point back to you as the leader of this cast. I'll never forget, it was one of our first conversations around this project. You set an intention for that. And so, yes, we witnessed it, but it was also sort of at the center of your being, of something that you were yearning for as an artist.
It helps people get more in touch with their feelings and able to process and actually move through and truly get some rehabilitation.
So are you acting at all during this interview?
Absolutely not.
What about like just first hearing about this felt like this could be the place for you to bring that opportunity of displaying this sort of beautiful tenderness and honesty?
That's a great question. I'm going to take it back to this one thing that you just sparked in my mind that's going to help answer this. I was directing a production of a Band of Angels for New York Children's Theater some years ago. And as we were devising this work, one man had to help another man get over this river. And then he held out his hand. I said, oh, grab his hand, hold on to his hand. And then I was like, oh no. And then I went deeper. I said, look at each other, eye to eye. I realized that that's what I want to see in the world. I was creating this moment, and we held that moment, and audiences were truly responding to it. And then I couldn't shake it. And so I think that I've been searching, possibly even in my career after that, to find more moments like that. I thought, these guys are holding a space of tenderness in such a dangerous space for that.
Yeah.
Where they're absolutely not supposed to be vulnerable or open up their hearts and emotions and talk about themselves or their feelings, because they could be damaged in every single way. But I thought these men were holding each other accountable to show every single emotion, to bring all that trauma, to rework that stuff. I thought that was extraordinary. Maybe it's my own work as a man on this planet, and I'm just trying to connect with other men and just tear down walls and all these tropes of who we are. So that was attractive to me. And you, and your leadership, honestly, was saying, no, I invite that. And we want to invite that energy. And that's what we created, even on those Zooms with Clarence. There was such an openness and a respect to, like, let's say, let's build from here, you know? And I didn't know what I was getting myself into, really.
Well, there's no script.
No script. Also, even like as a person, like opening up yourself, I think that there's a lot of things possibly that like I believed that whether one of these men knew, you know, that I have a husband or something like that, I didn't know how to treat it. I feel like there's certain things where like, how much do I give of myself? And also how much do they give of themselves too?
Some of the things the brother was saying in the book really resonated with me, man. I mean, what the brother said, he said, when we are born, we cry because we're born to a stage of fools. And I said, yo, whoever wrote this, man, had to did a bed before, you know?
We did that thing, which is, I think, the most beautiful thing that we all can do, like truly in the world, is to take a person where they are. You don't have to know their history or what brought them here. Get to know the person sitting right in front of you. And you uncover all these other things about a person's past or history or what brought them here to this moment. You take that as is. That's a part of the makeup. But it doesn't change what you thought about the person. You know what I mean? It just goes deeper, I think.
Well, that's what's so radical about the fact that this program and then our film about it exists, is prison has sort of become very effective at defining someone by a singular moment in their past. Even sort of with the vocabulary of an inmate or a convict or, you know, all this sort of antiquated language, which I think our movie is about separating that, is bringing the person outside of the circumstance and allowing us to sort of feel them in the fullness of who they are, you know. And I think that's also tied to what acting is, I think, and its greatest display is like being present right here, feeling each other as we are now. And then also like what sort of, it's not that we're not informed by the past, and that with respect and relationship, as you're saying, then we can be vulnerable and share these sort of moments of our lives that have made us, as well as start to have shared imagination of who we can become, you know. And I think that's one of the sort of beautiful aspects of like the world of our movie sort of meeting like its ideas and its theme, and then the people at the center of it.
Do you believe that your next project, I don't even know what's next for you.
Yeah.
But are you going to try to take some of this work, this energy into it, or is it going to be, or are you directing the next Marvel film? Yeah.
Well, I think it really depends on how many of them will get to star Colman Domingo.
Perfect answer.
No, you know, but I mean, all of it, I mean, that's actually, I'm not being coy. Like, I hope that this is not the end for us. I want to keep creating with you. And you're the kind of actor that you can dream, you know, like new worlds for us to visit, and like in the same way that I never wanted to call cut. I think there's an endless possibility of what we could make together. But I think it's also about just reshaping. I think making Sing Sing has just set this whole new standard, not just for like, is a movie good or not, but how you feel when you're making it. And I just want to feel like we felt, as well as I feel like we feel when we share this movie with the world. And I think within Sing Sing is like, I think it's a movie about hard-won optimism. And I think we just need more of that in our world, and I want to be a part of telling stories like that. What about you? You can do and are doing everything. you're directing, you can start, and you know.
But you know, I feel the same way. I think that once you get a taste of the way it's possible to work, when someone brings you some archaic ideas of like the way you have to work or do something or build a model, you're like, I've never believed that. Even with our production company, I was like, no, I feel like no. It's case by case, and we do it how we feel and how we want the world to feel.
Yeah.
And I feel like I just want to continue to work with a sense of the generous people. Honestly, I think that's the way you get anything beautifully done, where people actually say what they mean. I try to be a man of my word.
Yeah.
The thing that I know for sure is you as well, and that's where you present it with me. And you've been consistent. You, Monique, Clint, you've been consistent, and I think that that's rare. And I want that in every relationship. I sort of like, this is going to sound a bit like a Pollyanna, but I do mean it. I want to love the people I work with.
Yeah.
And I know that you and we love each other, you know, and I love Clarence, and I love my cast and my crew. Every time we see each other, I'm like, no, it's true. We love each other. Because there's no duplicitous nature of someone trying to get something or get something out of it. You're like, what I want to do is give something to it.
Right.
I'm not here. And that's what I'm telling, you know, people coming behind me. It's not about what you can get from something. What can you give to it?
Right. And be of service.
And be of service. And I guess it always goes back to that. But same with you, from you know, being raised by coaches. You know, it's about service. It's about the collective. It's about all of us. And if you and I can be sort of like purveyors of that and leaders in that, just saying, oh no, we can continue to just believe that we can all eat. We can all bring something to the table. Right. And it does feel somewhat radical, because in the nature of this business, it's a little selfish, you know?
Yeah. And it's something we also hope to continue to do, but I think you're pointing to at the core of this film is also our financial structure that would not have worked without your spirit to enable that, you know, which is, we built it on parity, you know, that we kind of erased this line between above and below the line. We sort of flattened the traditional hierarchy of how these films are made and created a space where, you know, everyone could eat at the table. You know, you worked for the same rate as a production assistant on this film. And you're saying with that they have the same intrinsic value and something to offer as you, an Oscar-nominated movie star. That's very radical and beautiful.
Thank you.
And we also all own the film, and so your cast could be on the same playing field as you and actually act eye to eye.
And I could tell people truly when they say, how does this work? How do you feel? I'm like, it feels real good.
Right.
I feel great about it. I love knowing that the people who give their lives and their stories and show up and you know, show up before call and after call, show up off of calls, feel valued.
Right.
I think that's very important. And I think that this model, many elements of it can work moving forward.
Right.
And I love that, you know, I'm not trying to have everybody knocking down your door for it.
Yeah.
But I think it's something that people can examine.
Right.
So I think so we don't get caught up in situations that we've had in the industry like the last few years and all the strikes and all. I feel like if we come to the table with a new way of being and looking after one another, we're gonna be fine.
And I think we're also not saying that everyone has to subscribe to this model. I think we're just saying that question this process and the way we do things, and ask, can it be better, healthier, less transactional, more of an exchange? Can we take care of our fellow artists while, while also doing well for ourselves? I think these are ideas that can matriculate more broadly into our industry. And even if it's just little degrees of change, it's worth it. I had a mentor once say, like, we're always in different bodies of water, but sometimes you don't feel like you're moving at all and you're just treading. And sometimes you're in a fast moving river, and sometimes it's like a trickle, but it's always moving towards the sea, and the sea being like that ultimate purpose. And so everything accumulates. Everything is a tool in your tool belt that you can use.
This is something that a lot of sort of young artists don't understand. They think it's only doing that thing, instead of all of those things, looking at the things outside of it as not being part of the makeup of an artist. But it is. I know that, like, me being a bartender for 15 years is very much a part of the way I know how to talk to people, the way I can talk to anyone. I didn't realize that until later. I'm like, oh, I've learned those things at all these bars. I can talk to anyone in the crew and executives, you name it.
When a journalism student into a bartender yields the curiosity of how to sort of probe into and learn about someone, or make them feel at ease, or
absolutely know what they need. Exactly, know when they need to be cut off. know when they need another.
Wait.
When I need one too.
Yeah. Wait. Favorite drink to make at the bar.
Favorite drink to make at the bar. I think it's funny because I worked when I was bartending. It was less about. It wasn't as craft cocktaily. And so it was. I worked in bars.
A double,
it was like hardcore drinkers. It was like Scotch on the rocks and stuff like that, or like Alabama Slammers and crazy stuff like that. But I was really good about making I know how to make a really good martini. And I think people think it's easy, but it's not. But I think it's like with a whisper of vermouth and shaken or stirred, you name it. But I know how to do that well.
How much time did you spend bartending while you were as a working actor? Like how long before you were able to let this actually fully sustain your life?
Am I? Yesterday.
I think it's important to hear, though.
No, honestly, it was. I had always found it was best for me not to have a 9-to-5 job, even as I was pursuing my work as an artist. I was always like a baker's assistant, so I would get up at 3 in the morning and be at a bakery until like 9 or 10, and then have my day. And then when I started, but I always needed a job that was flexible. So I started off waiting tables, and then I moved into bartending, because bartending seemed like you had a bit more power at the bar. The world circled around the bartender. So once I became a bartender, that's what I did, especially in New York. San Francisco was more of a waiter, and then in New York, I was a bartender, but I always taught as well. So I would always teach like part-time. I would even, have a studio of my own where I would teach, people. I would coach people on their monologues, for auditions, you name it, do self-tapes. I also had a side hustle of doing headshots.
I remember this.
I was a great headshot photographer. Honestly, I feel like objectively, I did have some good headshots. But I always needed flexibility. But I also have to say this, because it is true as I'm thinking about it. I also wanted to live a certain way. Honestly, I feel like I wanted to have a good life and have good food, and I didn't think I had to sacrifice that just by auditioning and being a theater artist, you name it. I also wanted to have a certain way of life. I also wanted to have to go get a really good meal somewhere or be able to take a trip somewhere. So that's why I always had these flexible jobs, bartending and things. Bartending was my favorite because I think I love people in that way. I love talking to people. I've had some of those profound conversations in moments in my entire life at a bar. And it's not even about the bar or drinking or anything like that, but it really is about like communing.
Do you remember any of them?
Huh?
Do you remember any of those
I can tell you one in particular. I told this at the Time 100 gala, and it's about my friend Rodney. My friend Rodney, I call him my friend because I think that we became friends. He was a homeless guy. He would come in every night. We closed the bar about 4 o'clock in the morning. He would usually come in about 3:15, 3:30. Wow. And it became a tradition. Like the other bartenders would let me know, like, and it was a very small bar in the West Village. He would come in and he would put up the chairs and sweep. He would pay him $5, tip him $5. If he made a lot of money that night, tip him $10. So he would come in again and again. And this one night, he came in, and it was a cold, cold winter night. And I was going through my stuff as an artist. I wasn't booking work. Both my parents were ill. I was having a really hard time. Oh, I get emotional every just thinking about it. He came in, and something was going on with him too. And we were both very quiet that night. I was playing like Donny Hathaway's album. He was sweeping, putting up chairs. I got him a ginger ale. He liked ginger ale with bitters in it. And suddenly I'm singing, this Donny Hathaway song. As I take it from me, someday we'll all be free, and I'm singing it. And I hear him singing as well. And it became a solo to a duet to a trio. And we sang at the top of our lungs, and then we both were crying. And he was like, thank you for that. Thank you. And then this is I feel like it's cinematic, because cut to, I didn't see him for months, and I didn't know what happened to this man. So spring comes. Also, he had a limp. He had a really bad leg, and he just looked terrible. One spring morning, and it sounds like a film. One spring evening, the door guy says, "Hey, Colman, there's somebody who wants to see you." And I'm like, "Hey, oh." They're like, you have to come outside to see him. I go out, and it's Rodney. He's cleaned up. He's in a wheelchair. He looks like a young college professor. He looks like a college professor. And I'm like, oh my God, Rodney. You say, oh man, that night, he said, I can't thank you enough. After that night, I went home. He said, I went home to DC, to my family. I reached out to my family, and I needed some help. And it was hard for me to finally get back. But there was something that happened that night. And he had one of his legs amputated, and he was on the healing path. And literally, it's the last time I saw him again, because he said he was going back. He just wanted to say thank you, because he was up here getting some things in order with one of his relatives. And I was like, the thing that happened in that little bar, and for me, it was just like two people who felt like a lot of times, I don't know if we had a lot in common, but we had our humanity in common. We had music in common. And we just shared this open-hearted moment. And so I think my life has been built with moments like that that I know are transformative when we come together as people.
I love your heart.
Well, thanks, man. Yours too. We're both soft. I'm surprised I cried before you.
I know. I was also thinking about that as you were telling the story. I was like, you're first. No, but so many times, like, you think it in your head, and you kind of be like, you just about someone else. Like, I say this, and it could be a little act of encouragement or lift, but most of the time we're kind of like, you just keep going, But so it's those moments when you pause and you actually engage. Sometimes without us knowing, like, you went on with the rest of your life, and then these years later, he's out on this doorstep. Yeah. And, like, we don't know the ways that this all spirals. No, we don't.
But like that moment you say, when you've told the story that said you were volunteering and you saw a guy working with a rescue dog. Right. And that little moment right there changed your trajectory and helped you create Sing Sing, right? Yeah. Because you were like, but what if you always think about those moments, that second. What if you looked the other way? What if you didn't see that? Yeah. But it brought you here. Right. Those beautiful divine moments, I think. That divine intervention, when someone says, turn your head this way, take that in. You need that.
I mean, that was, and it's just crazy to think, like, that was 8.5 years ago.
Good God.
8.5
years ago.
Yeah. And I was on another job. I was producing. I wasn't even, directing. We were making a short doc, and it was my first time ever inside of a prison in Kansas. And you have this instinct around what to expect from that experience. And so your body, is kind of operating on a lot of fear and anxiety around, what that impression is going to be like when you step through that gate. And obviously the physical place helps serve that. Yeah. These big walls, the razor wire, like the big steel gates that like reverberate through your bones when they like close behind you. And so that's all operating in that moment. We were producing this doc about something else, but on a tour of the facility, when I saw that young man in that cell, I think the reason it stopped me in my tracks was because it was so decidedly against the current of all of those expectations. Because what was happening in that room was, and it's a word we use often through this journey, project, was healing.
Yeah.
Between that man and that animal.
And a word that people don't even, I think most people never associate with folks that are incarcerated.
Right.
The word healing.
Right.
That's profound.
Because incarceration is designed to be punitive versus rehabilitative. As well as like the true reality is that, you know, most people come home from prison. And so how do you want them to come home? Do you want people to come home and actually lift a community back up, repair communities that they had once harmed, and contribute as a fellow man or woman back to our society to improve it? And, you know, the minute we start to expand our imagination for that, it's just so simple, you know. And it's something that we talk about all the time is just, you know, if within incarceration that you pull away education, pull away art, then you're pulling away like the basic fundamentals of what it means to be a human being.
Yes.
If you bring education and art, it moves us forward. It's what enables us to thrive.
Yeah.
Well, we've done a real deep dive, but I have, you know, one more zinger for you.
A zinger of a question. Okay.
How do you like your coffee?
How do I like my coffee?
Yeah.
I like it filtered, strong,
Okay.
dark roast with oat milk.
Do you care about the beans or things like, do you like get really into this? Or
I'm not like one of those,
Yeah.
you know, wacky people from San
Yeah.
Francisco who really takes coffee very seriously, like my friend Sean San Jose. Also plays backpack. Anyway, but no, he's very serious about his coffee.
Okay.
But
learned something about it.
I'm just a really good, like, listen, I love, Starbucks has been doing it well. I love local coffee makers as well, but it's usually a dark, rich roast. You know, I like to know that it's happening.
You know, it's like every time I'm in a new city, it's one of the first things I do. I like to find the cool coffee shop because I feel like if you find the cool coffee shop, you're also embarking like in a very interesting neighborhood.
Ah, that's
I
great.
feel like it's sort of at the center of
Is that part of your
interesting
inspiration?
communities.
Does that inspire you?
It does. Well, I mean, I like to write in more public spaces. I don't like, I don't like to write alone.
privately.
Yeah, and there's something like it's like a little bit of a secret you're keeping of like you're writing the scene like amongst like these sort of strangers, and you can sort of look around at these tables and sort of piece together, you know, like your own imagination of where they are in that moment or who they are, and it can lead to like really beautiful creative moments.
What's your favorite time of day when you feel like it sparks something new for you to create?
It's funny, when I was younger, it was late, you know, at night, you know. And
How late? Like how late?
You know, if you were on a roll, like you'd go till 2 or 3 in the morning, like just kind of crushing pages on a script.
Yeah.
And then you get a little older, and I've got kids now, and like there's just the reality of just, I think when you have children, it's like whatever moment you can get, you gotta use.
Yeah.
There's something encouraging in that, though, is like there doesn't have to be some mystical ritual around being creative. It can be in the most briefest and delicate of moments, or when you're like in Bali in a tree house, like writing a script, that can also, the magic can happen there too.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. It's so true.
What about you?
Mine is usually early in the morning.
Yeah.
I really believe that dreams help me, and or moments like when I just wake up, the way my brain is operating. I usually, if I wake up at let's say 5 o'clock in the morning, I immediately will go, that's a great time for me to learn lines. It's also a great time for me to write. I feel my freest. Because if there's no other noise, there's nothing else happening, nothing that needs my attention. Even like 4:30, I'll wake up and I'll go into my office with all the lights off, and I would sit there and I would write and think about a scene that I thought about.
Wow.
Or I would think about the thing I'm going to direct, or I learn my lines that way. It's really helpful. I love those hours before anyone's up.
Right.
And it's just mine.
And once you've done it, you feel like you've got something on the rest of the world. Like you got, you know, you had a whole day.
I got ahead of it.
Yeah.
But that's why I like, but see that, you know, I'm also 54. I like to go to bed early these days too, so I can get up early. 9:30 is good for me. And and then I'm popping in the day. This was truly wonderful.
Really was.
Really, and we were saying we wanted to spend an hour together.
I know we did. We did it.
We didn't know if we had the time carved out, but thanks to TheWrap, you've given us that hour. I'm Colman Domingo. This is, this is my
Greg
friend
Kwedar.
Greg Kwedar, not to be confused with Greg Cuisinart. It's Kwedar.
Oh no, that's gonna stick,
No, I can't. Kwedar. Erase that. All right, thank you so much. Love you, brother.